Around 100,000 years before the Common Era, on a scorching African savanna, there was a female Homo sapiens hurriedly picking a large leaf to shade the baby on her head. This woman possessed extremely thick and tightly curled hair. Right next to her, another man had just stepped out of the dense forest. His thin and completely straight hair was soaked in sweat. The innocent child babbled and reached out to stroke the curly hair of its mother, then looked over at the straight hair of the strange man. When they looked at each other, those completely different types of hair make us wonder, why do humans have such different hair types? If you find this topic interesting and want to support the channel, please leave the number 1 in the comments right below. Your interaction is a massive motivation for us. The truth is, many of us think that hair type is just a matter of random genetics or purely fashion. But science reveals a much more surprising truth. Curly hair was once an ultimate cooling technology that helped our ancestors survive. A recent scientific study discovered that curly hair keeps the brain cooler under the sun compared to straight hair. Sounds counterintuitive, right? We usually just think hair is born to be beautiful. Who would have thought hair was once a solid shield to protect the human brain? So, why do humans have so many different types of hair? Some black people have their characteristic tightly coiled hair, some white people possess straight hair, and some people have delicate blonde hair. What created such bizarre diversity? To understand this, we must go back in time very far, even before our ancestors became modern humans. About 1.6 million years ago, the Homo erectus species lived on the African savannas. They had started to walk upright on 2 legs and developed a body similar to ours today. But they had almost lost their entire layer of body hair. Losing hair helped them dissipate heat extremely effectively when they had to run and hunt all day long under the scorching sun. However, there was one thing they resolutely kept, and that was the hair on the top of their heads. Hair became the first and most important curtain for the highly sensitive brain to avoid heat stroke. When starting to walk upright, the top of the human head was the place most directly exposed to sunlight. Therefore, it needed a natural roof. Scientists believe that the hair on the head itself, combined with sweat glands, perfectly helped cool the brain, thereby creating conditions for a large and complex brain to develop. Our ancestors lived in hot and arid climates. They had dark skin to protect their bodies from ultraviolet rays after their fur fell off. And their hair initially was mostly naturally curly, just like many African people today. That is because the spiral shape helps lift the hairs away from the scalp, creating an empty space for air to circulate and providing shade. In short, the first primitive humans had very little body hair, but possessed an extremely thick and tightly curled head of hair to protect the brain in an incredibly harsh climate environment. In terms of biological mechanisms, a series of genes have participated in shaping human hair. For East Asians, a specific gene variant named EDAR helps the hair become thicker and straighter, while increasing the number of sweat glands. This gene mutation only appeared about 30,000 years ago and spread very rapidly among Asian populations due to its high adaptability to the environment. Another gene related to the slight curliness or straightness of hair is the TCHH gene. In the year 2009, scientists found variants of this gene associated with straight hair in Northern European white people. Various other genes are responsible for producing keratin to shape the structure of the hair strand. Additionally, the genes regulating melanin pigment determine hair colors such as red, blonde, brown, or black, and often go hand in hand with skin color as well as ethnic characteristics. In terms of biological structure, a straight hair strand will have a circular cross-section. Meanwhile, curly or wavy hair has an oval or flat cross-section, causing the hair strand to automatically coil up. Genetic genes directly affect the structure of the hair follicle to create these different shapes. The diversity of hair is also strongly governed by the environment and natural selection. In hot climates, curly and thick hair creates a perfect insulating cushion against the scalp, excellently shielding against solar radiation and helping the body dissipate heat effectively to minimize water loss. Conversely, in freezing climates, a thick head of hair, even if it is straight, is extremely good at keeping the head warm. Sunlight also plays an important role. Northern Europeans often have light-colored hair like blonde or red because their bodies need to synthesize vitamin D in conditions with very little sunlight. Meanwhile, black hair in tropical regions both absorbs heat well and protects the scalp from the devastation of ultraviolet rays. Besides nature, humans also select their mates based on appearance. A beautiful head of hair, whether thin and soft, tightly curled, or long and flowing, can be a biological signal indicating a healthy body. Therefore, certain hairstyles and hair colors can be favored and spread strongly within communities across many generations. In short, current human hair is the result of an incredibly complex interaction among numerous genes, regional climate characteristics, and pressures from the selection process. There is absolutely no single gene that dictates everything on its own. Scientific evidence shows this is entirely accurate. In the year 2007, a study discovered a mutation in the EDAR gene linked to thick and straight hair in Asian people. Tests showed this gene increases the thickness of each hair strand and is considered the core genetic condition, creating the characteristic hair of East Asians. In the year 2009, another study found the gene variant related to the straight hair of Northern Europeans. Even more interestingly, in the year 2023, a research team used mannequin head models to compare the impact of sunlight on human heads with straight hair and curly hair. The experimental results clearly recorded that curly hair helps reduce the amount of heat absorbed from the sun much better. This is excellent physical evidence supporting the hypothesis about the cooling role of curly hair. Archaeological evidence also shows that combs made from mammoth ivory dating back about 30,000 years ago have been found in Europe. Hair jewelry items in ancient tombs also prove that humans have cared for and styled their hair since prehistoric times. But the issue does not just stop there. Although the EDAR gene mutation created thick and straight hair for Asian people, it simultaneously changed both the sweat glands and the shape of the teeth, meaning one gene conveniently modified many details on the body at the same time. Furthermore, the environment is not always the sole governing factor. There are still freezing places where humans have curly hair, typically some ethnic groups in temperate North Africa. Or there are extremely hot places where hair is straight, like some inhabitants living on islands in the Pacific Ocean. This suggests that coincidence in the genetic process or sexual selection had a hand in creating this diversity. The story gets even more complicated when modern humans crossbred with other ancient human species like Neanderthals or Denisovans. Although we cannot know exactly what their hair looked like, their genetic sequences certainly contributed a significant part to the color and structure of our hair today. Hair is a complex, multidimensional evolutionary trait. We cannot decode it simply by the difference between cold and hot climates, but we must also look at migration history, the integration of genetic genes, and cultural factors. From a biological characteristic, hair has become a part of cultural and social identity. In many places, distinct hair evokes pride in their roots. There have been periods when hairstyles were symbols of power and social status. The standards for beautiful hair also constantly change with the flow of time. Unfortunately, hair was also once the victim of false prejudices and discrimination. However, science has proven that no hair type is superior or inferior to another. The difference is simply a testament to the diversity of cultures. A tiny lock of hair on our heads is actually tied to an entire chronicle of the migration of a tribe. Ultimately, hair type is a magnificent trace of adaptation, not a yardstick to judge the value of a person. Differences in hair types come from the miraculous intersection between climatic conditions, genes, and human migration history. Every single hair type is a unique evolutionary story, written by the hands of the environment and the genetic code. Let us return to the woman holding the leaf to shade her little child. Now, understanding the origins of diversity, the mother can proudly tell the child that the natural curl of the hair of the child is because our ancestors living in lands with scorching sun chose it that way to protect them. The baby smiles, reaching out to stroke its coiled hair. And when looking at the man with straight hair, they understand that that hair also carries with it a journey across freezing lands. The differences we once thought of as barriers or discrimination are actually just the glorious traces of time. The different hair on our heads is a reminder that humans always know how to adapt and change to survive. Perhaps the tiniest difference, like a lock of hair, is exactly the thing that contains an entire magnificent history of humanity. Thank you for watching to the end of the video. Do not forget to hit the subscribe button so you do not miss the next fascinating stories. Goodbye and see you again.